Yeah.
You have to. Congratulations.
They actually had me I was sacrificed walking on
Well, she's tall. I had a growth spurt. They thought it was over like 30 years ago.
I always wanted to look up somebody.
Yeah. One way to get people to look up to you. Okay. That was fun.
Thank you.
All right, just to make sure that we have some time to play, I want to pull everybody together. I suspect you all had a pretty good break. Lots of conversation going. The recorder is turned back on. Any questions from, I was going to say this morning, but earlier this afternoon? 20 minutes ago. Nothing? Y'all got it?
Until we try it, we're gonna get it. Oh, I have a question.
Okay, awesome.
How deep can you go into the goals, or how specific?
Yeah.
The goals are really just a set of pages for the most part. You can, I think there's 3 ways to set up goals. I always do pages, but you can set up a goal for if they stay on a page for a specific amount of time. You know, so if you're trying to beef up the amount of time they stay on a page, you can set that as a goal. And there's one other one, but I don't use those two, so I'm not that familiar with it. But we can look at it. We can dig in and look at it if you want to. Now, the key, since we're talking about goals, the key really is the end result. The page that makes the goal come true needs to be a page, doesn't have to be, but it really needs to be a page that the only way they can get there is, let's say, for example, it's a form. They're signing up for a newsletter. So your end result needs to be the thank you page. So if you just make your goal result be your contact page, well, people can get to that anyway. So it really doesn't, it isn't real accurate information, you know, data that you're tracking. So you really want it to be maybe the success page of a shopping cart, but you can also set up e-commerce, so you really don't have to use goals for that, but some people do. So you can put a value to your goals, you know, so you can do the whole calculation of if you have 100 leads that come in and 10% of those turn into $500, and you put, you know, every goal that is successful is X amount of money, right? So then you can put a value dollar amount on it. Yes.
Seeing as I was the volunteer, I was pretty crackers out, but I just wanted to ask you a quick question. Can you set goals in Google Analytics, or are these your own personal goals?
No, this is Google Analytics we're talking about.
So it's pretty important to set realistic goals, not unachievable goals, because then I obviously would.
Well, no, the goals in Google Analytics aren't a goal like what you and I would think of. It's like, I can't go to Google Analytics and say, I want to make 100 of these. A goal is, when they get to this page, which is the page that's on the other side of my form, that means they've achieved the goal. They've converted. And that's the goal. So you can set up to 10 different pages that you want them to go through prior to getting to the goal. But that's the max, unless they've changed it recently, which is quite possible. Does that make sense? So let's say I want them to go to the index page, and I want to go to the second page on my site, third page, fourth page, fifth page, sixth page, and then I want them, then that's when I'm going to make them convert. I got to tell you that would be a stupid way to do it, but you can do that.
But ideally, it's like, would it be the shortest route possible to conversion?
It depends. So, like for instance, if you have a site where people can come in on this page, and this page, and this page, and this page, you may set up all 5 or 6 of those pages, because people can come in anywhere, and then you can say, okay, when people come into the second position, they go down 1, and then they fall off. They still don't go to the goal. So then you can begin to look at that connection and say, oh, okay, they like this page, they did go, or they left immediately. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. What I should have done during the break, I guess, is found that picture. So maybe while you guys are working on it, I'll find the picture that I have. Yes?
I would say another way to think about that is every page should have a target activity. So when you're building your website, like each page does something that you want them to do at the end of it. Whether that's click to another page or sign up for an email or something. And the goals just tell you how successful any given page is. Because if they don't do what you say, then you're missing on that page. That's where content strategy comes in.
And it allows you to tweak, you know, because it'll tell you the percentage that left, where they went, and the percentage that did what you wanted them to do. What was the question?
Yeah, I was, and maybe this is something more separate, but I manage a couple different websites and that kind of thing. So I was interested in hearing more about how you're able to look at one Google Analytics, like you said, the profiles, I guess, underneath. Like
How to set that up?
how to set that up, yes.
Well, we'll just go in real quickly. Supposedly.
It's like I have one set up, but I don't know how to add the other one, because that would make it a lot easier.
Okay, so under all my accounts, I would go to SEOSG. Oh, I used to have this one up since we went to the new version. Go to my accounts. You know what? I'm actually going to have to go back to that because in the new version, I don't know where it's at.
Okay.
Because normally I would go right here under like this one for SEOSG, and there would be something right here that would tell me that I could add a profile.
Okay.
And it's not there anymore, so it's somewhere else now. Does anybody playing with this? Does anybody know where it's
under
at?
settings rather than mine.
Oh, here it is. Okay. So see, they put a new little settings tab over on the far right-hand side. So you're going to click on that, and then it will actually show you all of my master profile accounts.
Okay.
Okay? So like for instance, Kelmco is a single. There's only one under it, Kelmco. Lady Iris is only one under it. SEOSG has a bunch, and then Heavy Hog is just one. Okay, so let me look at SEOSG. I'm just going to click on it. And then now they're calling it a property. Nice.
Real estate.
So I'm going to put a new property. The property's name, the website address.
Okay.
It'll give you the separate code and the whole 9 yards. And it'll put it underneath SEOSG.
Okay.
Because that's where, this is the master account, which used to be called profile.
That's helpful. Thank you.
While you're there, you may want to show the filters, be able to, so you don't use your own.
Well,
Could you do
filter
one?
yourself out.
Show us how to work it through.
So here's the filters. So I can exclude an IP. So that's what most of you guys, you can go to whatismyip.com and it'll give you your IP address, which is 4 octets. And then you will put the octets in like this. So this is a 68.35.52.104 is how it's usually said. You're going to put what they call a slash behind them, or it will put that in there for you. Now, I don't want to get too technical, but if you get in here and for some reason you actually have 2 more, you're dealing with what's called IP version 6. So you're going to click this and it'll give you the 2 more spaces. We are, as an industry, running out of IP addresses. Have been for 15 years. But now it's getting serious. So anyway, you may actually end up with a longer IP address. That's what that's for. Make sense? Okay.
Could you remind me, back in talking about profiles or properties and accounts, why would you want to group multiple profiles or websites under one account as opposed to having them separate?
Being anal is part of it. The other is a lot of times if you run people's accounts and they have multiple websites, you know, it's just a way to organize them.
So it has nothing to do with the way they crunch the data or anything or present
No,
it
they're
to you.
still actually separate properties, which
Okay.
I can understand why they named it properties,
Mhm.
but they'd always call it profiles today. So for instance, in here, I just completely screwed up on Lady Iris. It's supposed to be under SEOSG. The problem is you can't move it.
Mhm.
I mean, I could delete it and recreate it, but then I lose all my history. And I've got 2 years worth of history that I don't want to lose. Yes.
You also can't swap, you can't move them between email addresses. So if you are
Actually,
setting,
actually you can now.
Oh, you can.
There's a little trick. So for instance, I have another account, SEM and SEOstrategygroup.com, and that's what I used to keep all of my accounts under. You know, and so for instance, you can set up users. We'll look at that as well. So let's say you're my client and you gave me access and you gave me emilyleach.com or emily@emilyleach.com. Well, what I did was I went into any of the ones that I wanted to keep, which is what you see here, and I logged in as SEM at SEO Strategy Group. That was my username. And I added Emily@emilyleach.com to all of those accounts. And then I went into SEM at SEO Strategy Group. And I actually deleted the account, but it did not delete the account. It just deleted it from SEM. And I now can see them in Emily@emilyleach.com. But you have to be set up as an administrator to do it. So it used to not work that way. I accidentally ran across this. Yes.
I noticed I had to pull up Google Analytics just to see what I could find. They have it, one for WordPress. They have all these different widgets, phone call tracking. It just seems like there's a ton of things in here. Widgets and gadgets. There's 6 of those. Do I dare click on that?
Or, I mean, are you looking at search results? What?
Well, so straight Google Analytics is not just Google Analytics. Do they have different versions or different plug-in capabilities?
Now, WordPress has a bunch of plugins to work with Google Analytics. You know, and then mobile phones have different widgets and stuff you can use to pull from Google Analytics. But Google Analytics really is just Google Analytics. It's expanding every day, but it's not expanding as new tools. Does that make sense?
How do you get it to access? How do you get it to pull from new and different locations? You know, suddenly you want to track mobile connections.
It always tracks mobile access.
It always does. Is there something that it wouldn't normally track that you would have to specifically set up?
Yes, goals.
Goals.
For one, e-commerce for another, social media is another one. I think that's about it. Real time is tracking on its own. Everything else is pretty much tracking just automatically. But those 3, you have to add some tracking codes and jump through a couple little hoops. AdWords would be another one. So you can link Google Analytics to your AdWords account, and that way that AdWords data comes in and you don't have to go to AdWords to see it, and it shows up in your traffic. I mean, it'll show up anyway because it's traffic, but now you can split it out and you can look at paid traffic versus organic traffic. But you have to have your AdWords set up. So real quickly, I'm also going to have you guys look at users real fast. So for instance, anyway, for instance, you may decide that you want someone else to be able to access your Google Analytics. You can add a user. They just have to have an email address that is associated with some Google account, so that they can get into Google Analytics, log in, and now see. You can give them admin access, which just means they can pretty much do everything you can do, good, bad, or otherwise. And then the other option is you can just make them, I think it's called report only, where all they can really do is look at reports. They can't change anything, they can't add users, they're just view only. So those are your 2 options. And you can revoke those at any time. So if you say you want someone to review your analytics for you, you can give them access to it. That way you don't have to give them your username, your login information. Then you can revoke that when they're done. And they really, if you're just having that done, they just really need review only. Make sense? Okay, any more questions before we start to play? No? Okay, so let's play for a little bit. Here's where we're going to get into some groups. I'm a very strong believer. One of the things that I've learned in the last 6-7 years of training is how people learn. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier. So I used to teach 5-day classes. And what I noticed was there was always at least a few people that would actually take advantage of I teach everything hands-on. They would actually take advantage of optimizing their site while we were doing it, because they usually speak for 15-20 minutes, leave the rest of the hour for hands-on work. One gentleman in particular that really stands out to me did that on the first day. By Wednesday, that was on Monday, by Wednesday he ranked number 27 for the term he had found. By Friday he was on the first page. Just by engaging and actually doing the work. So a lot of people say the crap doesn't work. Well, no, you just didn't do the work. So one of the things that I believe so strongly in is getting people engaged in doing the work. So I'm going to share one more story because I love this one. Everybody can relate to it. There was a study done in New Mexico. We had 50 rural companies. And what we did with those companies was we taught them search engine optimization, and we gave them an SEO coach for 2 years. Now, only 21% of those people, or those businesses, stayed engaged for 2 years. So it's really only 11 companies. 100% of those companies saw a minimum of a 30% increase in their bottom line. 2 years. They stayed engaged. 30%. What if every single one of you learned SEO? What if every single one of you learned how to be engaged, stay engaged, and worked on your site for 2 years? Could you handle a 30% increase in your business? That's what I believe. Because I've seen the numbers. I've watched it happen. And it's amazing. So I hear people talk and bitch about the economy, and I just kind of say, get off your ass and do something about it. It's so easy to change. We can do this. Okay, never mind. That's my story that I love so much. Here's what I want everybody to do. Let's get engaged. Pick up your notepads or your note cards. Grab a pen if you haven't already. And then I want you guys to find at least a couple of buddies. Remember the little piece that we talked about this morning about asking other people about their pain points and some keywords to help you do some keyword research? That's the piece I want you guys to play with this afternoon. So here's what I want you to do. Let's say these two people turn around and just work with those two people. You don't have to, just suggesting. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take 3 cards. Ma'am. And I want you to hand a card to the other 3 people that you're working with. You end up with 4. I just realized I didn't get in trouble by the grammar lady. Crap about grammar down there. Okay, so I want you to give a card to each of the other 3 people at your table. I want everybody at the table to do that. So everyone should have 3 cards if you have 4 people at your table.
We lost our guy. Oh, there you are.
You're gonna have to go deeper than me. You're gonna have to go further back.
Before you give your cards to your other people, I want you to write your name at the top of your 3 cards.
I'm looking over at Noelle, she's just writing Noelle, and I'm like, yeah, why am I writing out fast?
Oh, that, I'm doing the staring because you just changed your name. Back in Bush. Hey guys, let me have your attention again real fast. Before I lose change her name.
Everyone? Everyone, 2 more minutes, I promise.
So we did the name thing.
Okay, so you're in your groups. You've written your name on 2 or 3 cards and handed them to other people in your group. I want you, each person, to take just 10 or 15 seconds. Give everyone else in the group just a brief idea of what your site is about. This is not a 10-minute conversation. It's 10 or 15 seconds. If you can't do it in 10 or 15 seconds, we got another conversation to have. And then I want you to ask the question. And I physically want you guys to do this. And I will be walking around. If you don't, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to make you ask the question. What comes to mind for you? Give me 3 words. 3 of the first words that comes to mind for you, and even if it's just a 1-word word, phrase. What comes to mind for you? Well, yeah, see, I just keep pushing. What comes to mind for you when you hear me say, then what your site is about? Boat christening, wedding gowns, whatever. This does not take a lot of time. And then just sit down, write the 3 words, go to the next one. Okay?
Oh, I was waiting for you. Oh. I was thinking the Jeopardy. Okay. I'll go. Okay, what comes to mind when you hear Yes, I have one minute. Okay, so you write down here. I guess you write here. Okay, so your site is about midlife women. It's for but is that what I'm supposed to say? No, yeah, what did you say about you? Okay.
And what's it called? It's called annumoney.com.
More about it, because that's, and I need 2 of them, 3 of these, 3 long, okay.
Each line can be as long as you want it to, but this is what you try to say. Like, I will take as many words as you want.
Well, but I'm just doing on jargony, for people, so it's really biology. It's
So we just write it on your card.
Just write it on my card. Okay.
Sorry, you're having to deal with my really bad handwriting.
That's all right, I'll deal with it. Okay, so,
I type better than
so David, tell us, thank you. I'll collect the card. So David, tell us what you do.
What you get is an online card that supports nonprofits through regular purchases online.
Regular purchases.
Regular purchases online. So if you're an online buyer, you go through our site, you pick one of our partner organizations, and then you pick a store. Most likely it's a store you already shop at. You're shopping the same way you always have, except you're paying nothing more, and your nonprofit walks away with 1 to 5% of the purchase price.
I want to do a sentence.
It's hard.
Website, so they can have total control of their online presence as it pertains to their website.
How young?
Yeah. Well, you could start, you just move the greeting card, so you just put social research tools. Alright, so market research, primary research,
Market research, enterprise research.
I couldn't stop.
I don't, like, say, here's a list of tags that are
The other thing that you could be doing is, even if it's just a single word, it doesn't really matter. What she's trying to do is get an idea of what people outside of her vacuum is thinking about in regards to shopping.
Okay, cool. Great. Okay. All right.
Right here?
Good. Okay.
We find another group and switch? You guys have an extra card?
I don't know how long she's.
What the heck, until she blows the whistle. Here.
Oh gosh, that's the second time we've done that.
It's just that the tables are all.
Come on in, Susan. I know, I was pushing it.
If anybody else wants to trade cards, you
guys get anything out of it?
Find yourself whether you're
I'm not someone who knows words, but it seems like much that could mean a variety of
Probably I just Apple's not continuing.
The other problem with